There's a sound that drifts across the African savannah after dark that stops most people in their tracks. A high, warbling, almost hysterical cackle, rising and falling like something out there is genuinely amused. And here's the unsettling part. Whatever is making that sound is almost certainly not having a good time. Spotted hyenas make a call scientists actually call a giggle, and it sounds close enough to human laughter that early European naturalists, centuries ago, assumed it meant more or less the same thing, a carnivore's version of comic relief. It doesn't. What's actually happening when a hyena giggles is stranger, more calculated, and honestly a lot more disturbing than a joke. So let's talk about what that sound is really for. Because once you understand it, you'll never hear it the same way again. First, the reality check. Hyenas aren't laughing because something is funny. The giggle is what biologists classify as a submission or stress vocalization. It shows up almost exclusively in tense, high-conflict situations. Picture a clam competing over a fresh kill, shoving and snapping at each other for a bite, and one subordinate animal gets bitten, chased or muscled out of the way by something higher ranked. That's the moment the giggle comes out. It's not celebration. It's closer to a scream that evolution smoothed into something that, to human ears, sounds oddly cheerful. Here's a number that reframes the whole thing. Hyena clams can include up to 80 individuals, all competing for food, mates, and rank inside one of the most rigidly structured dominance hierarchies in the animal kingdom. Every single interaction inside that hierarchy, who eats first, who backs down, who gets challenged, carries real survival stakes. In that kind of pressure cooker society, a laugh isn't comic relief. It's a hyena broadcasting in real time, "I've lost this round, don't escalate," which raises a genuinely strange question. Why would losing an argument sound almost identical to something joyful? The answer sits in how the giggle is actually produced. It comes from rapid, breathy panting through a mostly closed mouth, generated under acute stress, and that specific vocal mechanism happens to produce a pitch pattern strikingly similar to what we associate with human laughing fits. Evolution didn't design this sound to entertain anybody. It's a side effect of an animal's respiratory system firing rapidly under duress, shaped over generations into something with genuine social meaning. And it turns out that meaning is far more precise than "I'm stressed." Researchers studying spotted hyena vocalizations, including a well-known analysis out of UC Berkeley, found that the giggle isn't a generic distress cry at all. Its pitch, rhythm, and modulation actually encode information about the caller, roughly how old they are and where they sit in the clan's dominance hierarchy. Other hyenas listening nearby can apparently extract real data from that laugh, enough to judge whether the animal giggling is worth challenging further or safe to ignore. It's less like a scream and more like an acoustic ID card, broadcast involuntarily in the worst moment of a hyena's day. But the giggle is just one piece of a much bigger vocal system, and this is where it gets stranger. Spotted hyenas also produce something called the whoop, a long, mournful, rising call that can carry up to 3 miles across open savanna. It's used to rally scattered clan members, announce a kill, or call for backup during a fight with a rival clan or a pride of lions. Field researchers working on Kenya's Mara Hyena project, a study now running continuously for more than 3 decades, have shown that just like the giggle, each hyena's whoop is individually distinctive enough to identify a specific animal from a recording alone, the same way you'd recognize a friend's voice on the phone without seeing a name pop up. There's also a faster, more urgent variant called the fast whoop, reserved almost exclusively for the chaos of a fresh kill, a rapid-fire call that recruits nearby clanmates before a rival clan or a pride of lions can muscle in and steal the carcass. Timing matters enormously here. The hyenas that whoop fastest and loudest tend to secure more food, which means this isn't just noise. It's a broadcast with a ticking clock attached, and getting it right can be the difference between eating that night or not. Put the giggle, the whoop, and the fast whoop together, and you start to see something most people never associate with hyenas: an animal running a genuinely sophisticated communication system, layered with encoded social information, deployed strategically depending on the exact stakes of the moment. That's not typical scavenger behavior. That's closer to the vocal complexity researchers usually reserve for primates. Which tracks because hyena society itself looks a lot more like a primate troop than most people expect. Spotted hyena clans are matriarchal. Females are almost always dominant over males. Rank is inherited from mothers down to daughters, and social status determines everything from feeding order to who gets protected during a fight. It's what biologists call a fission-fusion society. The clan constantly splits into smaller foraging groups and reunites, which means every hyena has to keep track of shifting alliances, grudges, and rank changes across dozens of individuals it might not even see for days at a time. Managing a social memory that complex takes real cognitive horsepower, and notably, spotted hyenas have an unusually large frontal cortex for their body size compared to most carnivores, in territory more typical of some primates. Michigan State researcher Kay Holkamp, who has spent decades studying hyena cognition, ran cooperative problem-solving experiments where pairs of hyenas had to pull ropes in coordinated sequence to release food, and spotted hyenas solved it faster, on average, than chimpanzees tested on the same basic setup. That's not a small claim. It suggests the social pressure of living inside a massive, competitive, rank-obsessed clan may have pushed hyena intelligence somewhere genuinely unexpected for a carnivore most people mentally file next to vultures and jackals. So here's the part that should genuinely sit with you. Laughter-like sounds appear to have evolved at least twice, independently, in two completely different branches of the animal kingdom, primates and hyenas, for almost opposite reasons. In chimpanzees and humans, laughter mostly builds bonds. It signals play, safety, this is not a threat. In hyenas, the giggle signals almost the reverse: conflict, submission, back off. Two unrelated lineages landed on a similar-sounding vocal pattern through completely separate evolutionary paths and ended up encoding nearly opposite social messages inside it. That's convergent evolution doing something genuinely strange, reusing a similar acoustic toolkit for two very different jobs. And hyenas aren't even the only animal we've gotten this wrong about. Kookaburras produce their famous cackling laugh as a territorial call, not amusement, a loud declaration to rival birds that a patch of forest is already taken. Hyraxes, green woodpeckers, even certain frogs have all picked up folk nicknames built around sounds that resemble human laughter, when the actual biological function underneath has nothing to do with humor at all. We seem to have a very specific blind spot. Any rising, breathy, high-pitched call gets filed under joy by our brains almost automatically, because that's the only reference point most of us have. That reflex is exactly what made early naturalists name the hyena's sound a laugh in the first place, centuries before anyone understood what was actually happening inside a feeding frenzy. We weren't wrong that it sounded like laughter. We were wrong about what laughter always has to mean. Even human laughter, if you dig into it, isn't as simple as pure joy. Nervous laughter, the reflexive laugh that surfaces when you're scared or humiliated, plenty of primate laugh vocalizations tied to tickling and submissive play rather than pure delight. The line between "I'm having fun" and "I'm managing a threat" might be thinner biologically than we like to admit, in hyenas and maybe in us too. So the next time you hear that eerie cackle in a nature documentary or see a hyena clip online with a caption joking about how unhinged it sounds, you're not actually listening to an animal enjoying itself. You're listening to a real-time status update from inside one of the most complicated social hierarchies in the animal kingdom, an animal broadcasting its age, its rank, and the fact that it just lost, in a sound shaped by millions of years of evolution, to do exactly that job. Creepy, maybe, but once you know what it actually means, it stops being a horror movie sound effect and starts being something closer to a language we just never bothered to learn. If you like finding out that the creepiest sounds in nature usually turn out to be some of the most sophisticated, consider subscribing. It helps more than you'd think.